Chapter 1. I'm having a baby, Annie said out of the blue, making Ella, her best friend, choke on her orange juice. Annie was relieved that she let it all out to her best friend, even though she wasn't sure about her reaction. It hadn't been easy keeping something this sensitive away from Ella. You're what? Ella asked in shock, her eyes not leaving Annie, who was seated opposite her. Annie sighed. She knew Ella heard her loud and clear, but she didn't mind saying it again. I'm having a baby. I heard you. I don't just understand how. I know how a baby is being conceived. But when did it happen? I never knew you were seeing someone. Ella voiced out, looking as confused as ever. As far as she knew, Annie had been single for a while now. Annie sighed. I'm not seeing anyone, and neither am I pregnant yet. Ella was even more confused now. She placed her glass cup, which still had some juice in it, on a small table beside her. They were seated in Annie's living room. I want to believe you were only pulling my legs, Ella said. Annie Davis shook her head. I'm having him or her by insemination. The procedure will be done tomorrow. Ella couldn't believe her ears. She opened her mouth to give a response to what Annie said, but no words came out. Her brain was finding it hard to process the reason behind her best friend's decision. After a while, Ella spoke. Okay, you win. I'm known for pulling expensive jokes on you, but this is way more than all I've ever done to you, Ella said, hoping it was all a joke. But she wasn't that sure because Annie was looking very serious. None of this is a joke, Ella. This is something I've thought about and also acted on. I've been in contact with my doctor, and the whole procedure started a couple of weeks back. Getting the right sperm donor. I also had to do a couple of tests. I've been eating according to the meal plan given to me, and I've also been on prescribed medications. We are anticipating that the procedure will be successful on the first trial. I'm sorry for not opening up to you sooner. I had to come to terms with myself to know if this was what I truly wanted. You would have talked me out of it if I told you earlier. Of course I would have talked you out of it. What were you thinking, Anne? You're just 27, and already thinking about having a baby by insemination. Who does that? I did. Annie shrugged like it was no big deal. Ella sighed, running a hand over her hair. You're still young, Annie. You're smart, you're beautiful, you're attractive, you're the sweetest and kindest person I've ever known. You had no reason to think in that direction. You may not be dating anyone now, but your soulmate will surely find you. You'll have your dream wedding and start a family with your Prince Charming. All you needed to do was to be patient, Ella explained. You should have believed me when I said I was done with men, Annie said. Annie, Ella groaned. Not anyone will be like the douchebags you've dated. There's someone out there who's meant for you. I don't want to dwell in that. I've made my decision. I wouldn't forgive myself if I go through with the procedure tomorrow without telling you. That's why I'm opening up to you now. Ella sighed, burying her face in her hands. She spoke after a few seconds of silence. You realize raising a child alone comes with a whole lot of responsibility. Are you sure you're ready for this? I want to be assured you know what you're doing. What if your baby grows up and asks for its father? What will you tell him or her? I'm certain that this is what I want, and yes, I've prepared my mind for all of the responsibilities. I never imagined myself bringing up a child alone, but it is what it is. Life is full of surprises. As for the baby asking for its father when he or she grows up, I have no idea what I will say to that, but I know I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'll love the baby so much and make sure he or she doesn't lack anything. I'm ready to start a family. I want to have a child. Ella sighed. If I could see any of your exes right now, I won't think twice before strangling them, especially that douchebag Kaye. Please don't mention his name, Annie interrupted, referring to her recent ex who used her and broke her heart. It took a while for Annie to get over it. She then made up her mind that all men were the same, or perhaps true love wasn't for her. So she decided to start her family alone. She would love her child with every strength in her, and hopefully, her child would reciprocate the same feelings to her. You're not doing this because you feel lonely or because you're afraid you will end up alone. A sad smile tugged at Annie's lips. I'm far from being lonely, especially when I have my type of job. I have you and my annoying but loving siblings, so I know I'll never be alone. This baby will be the ray of sunshine I need in my life. I'm sure you've told Mom. How did she take the news? Ella asked. Annie's dad passed away when she was 9 years old. Her mother, Angela, remarried, and now she has 2 younger siblings, Claire and Jaden. the most troublesome 14-year-old twins ever. Despite the age difference, Annie had always loved her younger brother and sister. She freaked out just like you. I mean, she would have wanted her grandchild to be conceived naturally, but she ended up respecting my decision. There's nothing I can say to talk you out of this. Is there? Annie shook her head. Elle est site. I guess I have to start preparing my mind about being an aunt. I'll respect your decision, and I promise to be there for you in every step of the way. You have my support. Annie smiled. She joined Ella where she was seated and pulled her into a hug. Thank you. Don't mention. What time is the procedure tomorrow? You want me to come with you? Ella didn't mind ditching work the next day to give her best friend all of her support. 9:15 a.m. As much as I would want you in there with me, I don't think your boss will be comfortable with the idea of you not showing up at work on a Monday morning. Annie smirked, which earned a groan from Ella. Ella works in a well-known company. The owner retired and appointed his son to take over, and since then, Ella never fails to complain about how much of a pain in the ass he was. Dylan is not a problem, Annie. I can take an excuse from him. You don't have to, Ella. I'll be fine. I will let you know how it goes. Annie said. You sure? She asked. Ella nodded. So, that means you won't be showing up at work tomorrow? She asked Annie. I would when I'm done with my appointment. I'll probably try not to do too much. It all depends on my doctor. If he insists I have to rest for the rest of the day, I have no choice but to obey. Annie was her own boss. She owns a beauty parlor called Anne's Home. Alongside being a beautician and owning her business, she was also a YouTuber. She started making YouTube videos out of boredom, and it turned to something she could not do without, and was known for uploading amazing contents on her channel, and that made her subscribers yearn for more videos. Though she was not a popular YouTuber, she was doing quite well. I have a crazy human for a best friend. Ella voiced out. Annie chuckled. I love you too, sis. Chapter 2. Annie said her goodbye to Ella. She watched as Ella's car left her driveway, and then she went back inside. Before Ella left, they talked more about how busier and crazier their life was going to be in the future months, with the baby in the picture. To be honest, Annie was a little scared about the whole thing, but she was even more scared about the fact that she may not get pregnant on the first trial of the procedure, and if that happens, she would have to keep trying until it worked. Annie switched off the TV, closed the windows, turned off the lights in the living room, before heading to her bedroom. She took a shower, did her nighttime skincare routine, and changed into something comfy. She tied her now dried hair into a messy bun, reached for her laptop, a pen and a notepad. Then she got comfortable on her bed to do some work. The month was coming to an end, which means Annie will have to pay her workers. So she was trying to go through all invoices, and also cross-check everything her accountant sent to her email. She did that very quickly, after which she started looking online for a bigger shop to rent. She was thinking of relocating her beauty parlor to a bigger place with more space. She got tired when she didn't find the shop that interests her, so she eventually shut down her laptop. Annie got comfortable under the duvet, reached for her phone and replied all pending messages. She got tired after a while, said a short prayer and slept off. So what did Dr. Myers say concerning the test you took? When will the results be ready? Evelyn, Eric's mother, asked Eric. I haven't heard from him, Mom, but I should get the result latest by Wednesday, Eric replied, connecting his glass of white wine to his lips. Eric Ivan James was the first child and only son of Evelyn and Austin Ivan James. He was 30 years old and handsome as hell. He currently heads his father's company alongside the chain of 5-star hotels and investments he owns. Eric was one hell of a hard worker, and what makes him unique was that he was very kind and he treated everyone with respect, a trait he got from his parents. Because of his busy schedule during weekdays, he made sure he spent Sundays with his parents, had lunch and dinner with them, and updated them with the latest developments concerning the company. Right now, Eric was seated with his parents in one of the living rooms downstairs. I'm tired of hearing the same thing all the time, so I don't think collecting the result will be necessary anymore, Eric added. No, dear. You should follow up with the result. Everything will be fine, Evelyn said with pleading eyes, which earned a sigh from Eric, knowing he'll have to find time during the week to go collect the result. To be honest, Eric Ivan James was tired of it all. The depression started when he found out he had a low sperm count. Since then, he has been in and out of the hospital once every 3 months for some tests to keep up with his progress, and also for treatment recommended by Dr. Myers. Seeing that there wasn't any progress, Eric concluded he was not destined to conceive, and that he would adopt a child when the time was right. But his mom found a way to make him go for his last checkup where his urine, sperm, and blood samples were collected. "All right, Mom, I will go for the result this week." Eric heeded to his mother's plea, which made her smile. Before they could go further into their conversation, they were interrupted by Laura, Eric's youngest sister, the baby of the house. "I thought you would have gone," she said, taking a seat beside Eric. Laura had taken an excuse to go complete her homework as soon as they finished dinner. The soon-to-be 14 years old had taken a shower and was already in her pajamas. "Not yet, but I'll soon be on my way," Eric replied. "My birthday is fast approaching, Eric," Laura announced to her brother with a puppy dog face. Eric nodded, encouraging her to say what was on her mind. "I want to throw a party. We've talked about this, Laura. You threw one last year. I think you should keep it cool this year," Evelyn, Eric and Laura's mother said, making Laura groan. "Honey, please let her have one this year. You know she will keep disturbing us if we don't allow her." "Austin," Eric and Laura's father pleaded, which earned a playful glare from Evelyn. Laura was always getting what she wanted. She had her dad and brother wrapped around her little fingers, which made it so hard for them to say no to her demands. "I don't support her having a party," Evelyn replied firmly. "Mom said no party cupcake. How about you spend your day with me? Your birthday falls on a Saturday. We can go out and do anything you want, just the two of us." "That's fine with me. Thanks, Eric, I love you," Laura said with a huge smile before wrapping her arms around Eric, giving him the best hug ever. She was sure her elder brother was going to spoil her. That was why she loved him so much. Eric chuckled. "You're welcome. I have to go now. It's getting late already," Eric announced, rising to his feet. "Good night, son, we'll keep in touch." Austin hugged his son. "I'll be expecting you next week," Evelyn said as she hugged him too. After the hugs, Evelyn, Laura and Austin escorted Eric to his car. "Drive safe, my love," Evelyn said one last time before Eric got into the driver's seat and drove away. The whole family was protective of Eric, most especially Evelyn, because he was her only son. Laura was the first person to walk back into the mansion, followed by her parents, Evelyn and Austin, who walked in, hand in hand. Even after 32 years of marriage, their bond was still as strong as the day they first met each other. Ivan James's mansion was a very big one with an amazing view in front and a garden at the back. The mansion was a 2-story mansion with 7 bedrooms, 3 living rooms, a gym, kitchen, study rooms, a library, theater, and the 2 dining rooms. Eric lives in his apartment, which was a 40 minutes drive away from his parents' mansion, but Laura, who was still in high school, lived in the mansion with her parents. The drive to Eric's apartment was very quiet. He couldn't help but wonder how lonely his life was. Nothing would make him happier than having a family of his own, a wife who will love him more than anything in the world, and a child or children to call his own. Chapter 3. Annie woke up a few minutes past 7 to meet up with her appointment, which was set for 9:15 a.m. She would rather get there early than late. She said her morning prayer, arranged her bed, and then did a little cleaning, after which she had breakfast. She hardly had any appetite because of how nervous she was, but she had to eat something according to the doctor's instruction. Annie tried her best to eat as much as she could, cleaned the dishes, after which she went to take a shower and prepare for the day. "That will be all, dear. Remember to avoid stress, worry less, follow your meal plan, and take your medications. It's normal if it doesn't work at first. You can always try again," Dr. Myers said calmly to Annie, who was seated on the hospital bed in a pale blue gown. She nodded. The insemination was done a while ago, and Annie couldn't explain how she felt. Her heart was beating twice faster all through. She tried to stay calm, but it was just so impossible. "When will I be able to know the outcome? If I'm pregnant or not?" she asked nervously. "You can check in 2 weeks. I'll give you 2 tests before you leave." 47 years old Dr. Myers went out of the room to give Annie some privacy to change back into her clothes. She did that very quickly, after which she left for Dr. Myers' office. He gave her a flyer, which contained the necessary things she needed to know about, and also the pregnancy sticks. She thanked him and left the hospital. As soon as Annie pulled up in the driveway of her beauty parlor, a call came in. It was her best friend Ella. "Hey, how did it go?" Ella asked over the phone, slightly worried. "It went well, but it will take about 2 weeks to know if the procedure was a success." "It will be fine," Ella assured. "Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself." Annie sighed. "I'm so nervous." "I pray it's successful," she said, placing her right hand on her belly. "I'm sure it will, and your child will be so lucky to have you. No doubt you will be an amazing mom, Anne." Annie smiled sadly. "You always know what to say to comfort me. I'm being very hopeful since this is what you truly want. And as for being an amazing mom, I have no doubt about that. You're amazing with Claire and Jaden. I think this baby will be more than lucky to have you." Annie smiled. "Thanks. So should I come over this evening, Mama Bear?" Ella asked. Annie chuckled at the sudden nickname. "I don't mind." "Okay then, we will see in the evening. Don't bother preparing anything. I'll bring some Chinese food along. You're allowed to eat Chinese, right?" she asked hopefully. "Yes, I'm allowed for tonight. How's your boss?" Annie teased. "He's a pain in the ass. You should see my office this morning. You would mistake it for a flower shop." "Aren't you lucky he bought you flowers? A bouquet of red roses would have been enough. He didn't need to go overboard." "You won't forgive him, will you?" and chuckled over the phone. "Well, maybe. I just want to stay away from him. But I don't think it's possible because he's my boss. He likes you, Ella, and I think you're being too hard on him. Pity the poor guy, please." Ella sighed. "I will think about it." "All right, dear. I have to get to work. My customers are waiting." "Okay, boo. I'll see you later." Ella ended the call. Annie reached for her handbag from the back seat and helped herself out of the car. Entering her beauty parlor, she was not surprised by the number of customers that were already there. She replied to the greetings of her staff and also greeted some of her customers. Some were there to do their nails, some came for spa treatment, and the others were there to make their hair. Annie entered her office, placed her bag on a table, and got to work. She started attending to her customers knowing it was going to be a long day. "There's a problem, Dr. Myers." Nurse Sylvia panicked as she stepped into Dr. Myers' office. "What is it?" he asked her. Nurse Sylvia said nervously, "Nurse Belinda handed you the wrong semen for the insemination." The middle-aged nurse was seriously panicking, as she knew they were all in trouble. "What?" Dr. Myers rose to his feet. Every sperm was labeled before, and after they were tested and treated. He couldn't wrap his head around what went wrong. "How did you let that happen?" he asked, irritated. "No doubt they were careless. There was a mix-up with the tag." Nurse Sylvia swallowed painfully. "Then whose sperm did I use for the procedure earlier?" "The one you used belongs to the billionaire Eric Ivan James." Dr. Myers plopped down on his office chair in defeat. He took off his reading glasses, tossed it on the table, then massaged his forehead with his fingers, trying to send away the headache that was building up there. He knew Eric had a low sperm count, and if it was truly his sperm he used for Annie, there was a very high probability that the whole process was a waste. "You nurses should have been more careful. What in the hell do you expect me to tell both patients? Do you even have an idea of the type of trouble we are in? We could be sued." Dr. Myers said in anger. "I'm so sorry, sir. It was truly an honest mistake. There's something else you should know too," the nurse said. "Which is?" Dr. Myers asked, clearly pissed about the whole situation. He wondered what could be worse than what she just told him. "I think Mr. Eric is cured. The last time he came in for the test, we collected samples of his blood, urine and semen. The blood and the urine test showed that his sperm count has increased. Just for us to do the final confirmation with his semen sample, we discovered there had been a mix-up and you've used it for the procedure instead. Go get me the result," Dr. Myers demanded. Nurse Sylvia obeyed and was back in no time. "This is it, sir." She handed him the result. He collected the papers from her, put on his glasses and went through it. Indeed, Nurse Sylvia was saying the truth. Eric's condition has improved. His treatment over the years finally paid off. "Don't get too excited, because we are all going down for your mistakes. I would start praying if I were you all. You're free to go." He dismissed Nurse Sylvia. Dr. Myers skipped lunch. He used that period to think of a solution. Annie and Eric were like his children. He couldn't betray either of them, and neither does he want to end up in jail or losing his license. After weighing the pros and cons, He decided he was going to go by the truth, even though he would be going against his professional ethics, and by doing so he would speak to Eric first. He reached for his phone and dialed Eric, who picked up almost immediately. "It seems you were expecting my call, son." Something like that. "Good afternoon, Doc Myers." "Good afternoon, son. Hope you're good." "Yeah, I was about to call you for the test result. But if there's no improvement, I think I won't bother coming over to collect them." "I have good and bad news, Eric." Dr. Myers mumbled. Eric's heart fell. He knew the bad news was about him not being cured. He had no idea what the good news was. "Okay," Eric answered, unsure as to how to react. "Can you come to see me at the hospital today?" he pleaded. "Okay, Doc, I'm on my way," Eric said. "All right, I'll be expecting you," Dr. Myers said. Chapter 4. Eric stopped what he was doing, intending to continue after his visit to Dr. Myers, a man who was like a father to him. The drive to the hospital was very quiet. He couldn't help but wonder what good news Dr. Myers had for him. A happy smile spread across his face as he thought about the possibility of what the good news could be. The smile was replaced with a frown when he remembered there was bad news, also which will probably overshadow the good news. He decided to be hopeful and silently prayed to God to give him the strength to go through whatever Dr. Myers had to discuss with him. Robin, Eric's driver, parked in front of the hospital. It was a private hospital, a 4-story building, all painted in white. Eric was bombarded with greetings from the staff, and even some patients. He did not fail to notice the lust in the eyes of some of the nurses. He chuckled and focused on where he was going. He was used to people drooling over him, but unfortunately, he wasn't interested in them. He was still waiting for the woman who was going to steal his heart. He knew where Dr. Myers' office was, so he went there straight and knocked on his door. "Come in," he heard a faint voice say, and he opened the door. "Hi, Document," Eric greeted as he made his way in. Dr. Myers stretched out his hand to him for a shake, after which they both took their seats. Myers sat behind his desk and Eric sat opposite him. Eric rubbed his hands together as they started becoming sweaty despite the fact that the air conditioner was on. Eric Ivan James was nervous as hell. "Thanks for being here on time," Dr. Myers said as he removed his glasses and placed them on the table. "Should I be worried?" Eric asked with a shaky voice. Myers sighed. "A little. So what is it?" he asked. "As I said earlier, I have good and bad news. I will start with the good one, which is about the test result. You no longer have a low sperm count." There was a few minutes of silence as Eric tried to process the unbelievable statement he just heard. "Are you sure, Doc?" His voice came out as a whisper. Dr. Myers nodded. Only then did Eric have a sigh of relief. He never believed this day was going to come. He had lost all hope, but God came through for him. This means he would be able to have his child, what he had always wanted. His parents will surely go crazy when they hear this news. "Your blood and urine tests confirmed it, but we couldn't confirm with the semen you provided us with." "What does that mean?" Eric asked, his small smile slowly turning into a frown. "Does that mean you're not sure of what you just told me?" he asked with a heavy heart. "I'm sure, Eric, you're fine now. Once your blood test proves it, then it's final. It's just that there was a mix-up and your semen was used for another person." "I don't understand," he said, a small frown creasing on his forehead. "A close patient of mine had an insemination procedure this morning, and one of my nurses brought me the wrong sperm. She brought yours instead of the one from the donor." Everything was silent for a while as Dr. Myers gave Eric some time to process what he had told him. "What?" Eric finally said when he found his voice. "I'm very sorry, my child. I know it's wrong and unprofessional to make such a mistake. Please forgive us," the old man pleaded. Eric sighed, running a hand through his hair. "What happens now? What if she gets pregnant?" "She may and she may not. I have an idea, and it's up to you if you want to hear it." Eric nodded, encouraging him to continue. "I know this is all against my work ethics, but now that the deed has been done, I think it's only fair that I'm honest with the parties involved. The lady I inseminated earlier is just like you are to me. She's like my daughter. I chose to talk to you first instead of Annie, because I don't want to impose any stress on her. For protocol's sake, you will have to give us another semen sample, so we can do the final verification. And I promise to do a follow-up with Annie, and if she gets pregnant, I will tell her everything, including the fact that you want to be in your child's life." Myers said, Eric sighed. What if the lady in question does not agree to it? Or what if her husband or boyfriend refuses to let me be in my child's life? Eric was trying his hardest to remain calm. Dr. Myers had been a family doctor to the Ivan James for years now. Suing him or the hospital just wouldn't make any sense or change the fact that the lady in question was carrying his flesh and blood, and he was the father. That was if the procedure was successful. Dr. Myers knew about Annie's past relationships, how they ended badly, and the fact that she was planning on raising the baby alone if she gets pregnant. But it wasn't his place to tell Eric. If they were destined for each other, things will surely fall in place. You have every right to be mad at me. This is not something I'm proud of either, because such has never occurred. But I assure you one thing, Annie is a very nice girl. I think the two of you will be able to figure things out. Are you sure you're not pregnant already? You finished the ice cream. The last time I checked, you don't like this flavor. Ella teased Annie. As promised, she came over after work to keep her friend company. They just finished eating their Chinese food, and Annie had her face buried in the ice cream Ella bought. It's too early to tell Ella. Annie rolled her eyes, making Ella chuckle. Ella was almost at Annie's house when Annie called and asked her to buy ice cream, so she had to go back to get it. The ice cream shop was out of Annie's favorite flavor, so Ella bought another flavor, vanilla. Enough about me. How's your boss? I hope you guys did not fight again today. Annie smiled. No. I came to my senses after you called this morning. I apologized to him, and we've been civil after that. So does that mean you too? Oh, stop thinking too far, Annie. We're just friends. Scratch that, we only became friends today, Annie said as she took another scoop of her ice cream. I wonder why you two are delaying when it's so damn obvious that you guys like each other. I don't think I like him. I just have a crush on him, which I'm sure will disappear sooner than you know. Ella replied. Annie nodded, not believing what her friend said. Chapter 5. Ella woke up at exactly 2 minutes to 6. She woke up feeling tired because she slept late the previous night. She and Annie were up till midnight, chatting and editing one of Annie's videos that was due for upload on YouTube. From the guest room, Ella made her way to the kitchen. She made breakfast for two, cleaned the kitchen, and went back upstairs to get ready for work. By the time she was all dressed up, Annie was still sleeping. She ate half of the breakfast she made and left the other half for Annie. She left a note on the fridge and left for work. Annie stirred when her alarm buzzed. She turned it off, said her morning prayer, arranged her bed, and proceeded to the bathroom for her morning rituals. By the time she finished dressing up, which included applying her makeup, it was almost 8:30 a.m. A known smile tugged at Annie's lips when she got to the kitchen and perceived the aroma of her favorite breakfast. She was sure Ella made it before she left for work. She served herself and dug in immediately. She was about to take a bottle of water from the fridge when she saw the note Ella left for her, informing her she made breakfast and they would see each other over the weekend. Annie smiled as she tossed the paper in a nearby bin. She was blessed to have a friend like Ella. She took her medications, washed her plate, and left for work. Eric heaved a sigh when he felt a serious headache building up on the right side of his head. No doubt it was due to his constant thinking and lack of sleep. He even came earlier to work today and buried himself with work. But still, the probabilities of what could happen in the future scared the hell out of him. For almost 4 minutes, Eric has been walking back and forth in his office, waiting patiently for Dr. Myers' phone call. He wanted to be 100% sure his condition had improved. That was why he stopped by Myers' office on his way home from the office yesterday to drop a sample of his semen. And Dr. Myers promised he would get the result by this time today. He wondered why the old man hadn't given him a call. An impatient Eric was contemplating if he should go to the hospital when his phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Dr. Myers. He didn't think twice before clicking on the answer button. Sorry for calling late, my child. I've got the result with me. I was right, Eric. Your sperm count has increased tremendously. Congratulations, Dr. Myers said with a huge smile on his face. He was so damn happy for Eric. Thank God, Eric replied, feeling so relieved. His lips curved into a smile. There was hope for him to have a child. Have you spoken to her? Eric asked, referring to Annie. Not yet. I think it's still early to tell her because right now, she needs to avoid anything that will make her worry. So what do we do? Or should I approach her myself? Eric suggested. Not yet, son. Please give me the chance to talk to her first, and I think we should wait till she confirms if she's pregnant or not. I will do a follow-up about it, and let you know how it goes. Okay, that should take how long? Eric asked. Almost 2 weeks from now. Can you please tell me her name? I promise not to stalk her or anything. Eric asked, trying not to sound creepy. He wanted to have an idea of what her name was, because she might be carrying his child, so he needed to know a few things about her. Her name is Annie Davis, Dr. Myers said over the phone. Thanks, document. I hope you'll keep me updated. I have to go back to work now. Eric announced. I will, son. Have a good day. The old man ended the call. Eric crashed on the sofa in his office. He felt better than he was a couple of minutes ago. He was so damn happy because his treatment over the years finally paid off, and now he can have a child to call his own. Later at night, Eric swiped his keycard and helped himself into his luxurious 3-bedroom apartment. He was tired, which was why he came home earlier than usual. He placed his briefcase on a sofa in the living room and walked to the kitchen to get a bottle of water, which he gulped down immediately. After that, he went into his room to take a shower. He dried himself and changed into his gray sweatpants and no shirt on. He searched the kitchen for something to eat, but there was none, so he decided to order pizza. While waiting for the pizza to arrive, Eric decided to call his immediate younger sister, just to check up on her and see how she was doing. Elena picked up the call almost immediately. It was as if she was expecting her brother's call. Hello, brother. How are you doing, baby sister? It's been a while. I'm fine, Eric. How are you too? I miss you, Elena said from the other side. She was very happy to hear from her brother. I'm fine, sweetheart. I miss you too. How's work? He asked her. Work is stressful, but I'm coping, she said, and Eric chuckled. Elena is a lawyer. She's 4 years younger than Eric. She's very beautiful, smart, and above all respectful, just like her brother. She and Eric are very close. She was called to the bar last year, and she's presently working in a law firm. Elena's dream is to own her law firm, but now that she's fresh at the bar, she wants to get all the experience she can get before setting up hers. You okay, right? Or are you in need of anything, money, groceries? Eric, being the overly protective brother, asked. I'm fine, Eric. Remember, I work now and I have my earnings. I'm no longer in law school. She groaned, making Eric smile from the other side. If you say so, when will you come to visit me, or should I come to visit you instead? He asked. You've been coming to my place, Eric. It's only fair that I come to yours this time around. I'll try to see you over the weekend. Okay, Muffin. I'll be expecting you. Thanks for calling. Love you, bye, she said before ending the call. 2 minutes later, Eric's doorbell rang, so he got up from the couch to answer it, and it turned out to be his best friend, Dylan, in his tailored suit, holding 3 boxes of pizza. You didn't tell me you were coming, Eric said, surprised. I didn't think I would be here too. Dylan helped himself in. Eric closed the door. How come you have these? Eric asked, referring to the 3 boxes of pizza Dylan was holding. I saw the delivery guy downstairs, so I collected and paid for them, Dylan answered. They decided to sit and eat on the balcony, so Dylan took the pizza there and settled down on a chair while Eric went to the kitchen to get wine. So if she's pregnant with your baby, what will you do? Dylan, Eric's best friend, asked him. He just told him about the crazy situation. I will have no choice but to accept her and the baby. They'll be my #1 priority, Eric said, after which he took a sip of his wine. Dylan smiled at his best friend's reply. He knew Eric wanted a child so much, and he was happy that his dream was almost coming true. Please let this stay between us. I don't want my parents or sisters to find out yet. I don't want to keep anybody's hope up. If Annie gets pregnant with my child, I'll still have to talk to her, and her opinion matters too. So let's keep this to ourselves, he said. Dylan smirked. I think you love this girl already. From the way you talk, you're already protective of her. Are you sure you've not met her before? He asked, suspicious. Eric chuckled. Trust me, I've not. I don't even know what she looks like, but one thing is for sure. I respect her already. So how is your Miss Charming? Eric smiled, referring to Dylan's crush. Ella Macaulay. She's fine, he replied with a smile. I dropped her at her place before coming here. Fortunately, she lives in the estate next to yours. So you two are good now, right? Something like that, Dylan whispered, nervously scratching the back of his head. We just became friends, so we're taking it slow. The two best friends talked more about business, after which Dylan left for his apartment. Eric couldn't sleep. Series of thoughts were going to and fro in his head. He knew he promised Dr. Myers not to stalk Annie Davis, but he couldn't help but want to know more about her since she might be carrying his child. He wanted to know what she looked like, what she does for a living. He wanted to know if she has had dinner already. Damn, he was so curious. He wished he had her phone number or her home address. Eric didn't know what came over him when he took his laptop and searched for the name Annie Davis. He groaned when he saw thousands of people bearing that name. Of course, what did he expect? What do I do? He murmured as he kept on scrolling through. He clicked on a link, which directed him to all the Annie Davis on Facebook. Fortunately, most of the Annie Davis he saw were either younger or older, and the Annie Davis he was searching for was someone close to his age, according to the description Dr. Myers gave him. Eric was almost giving up when a picture caught his attention. He clicked on the profile to get more information. As he scrolled through, he saw that this particular lady was a mutual friend to Dr. Myers and his wife. Eric smiled as if he just won a jackpot. This might be the lady he was looking for. He clicked on her pictures, and to say Eric was blown away would be an understatement. In the whole 30 years of his existence, he had never seen a lady as beautiful as she was. After admiring all her pictures, Eric went to her post, and her last post was a picture of Dr. Myers celebrating him for his birthday, which Dr. Myers replied, thanking her. This was when he knew he had found his Annie. Eric decided to check out her info, and saw her bio, which stated that she was the owner of Anne's home, and a YouTuber. He was impressed to know she was an independent woman. Eric clicked on the link in her bio, and it directed him to Annie's YouTube page. He was impressed she had a huge fan base, 436,000 subscribers. He subscribed too and started watching her videos. The first video he watched was one where she did a tour of her beauty parlor and the services they offered. The place looked familiar to him, and that was when he remembered that he had once dropped Elena there for a spa treatment. The next video he watched was when she did a question and answer session. Towards the end of the video, Annie read out a question which Eric was surprisingly interested in. The question was, what type of qualities do you want in a man you would like to spend the rest of your life with, and mention 5 celebrity guys you would like to hang out with. He chuckled as Annie groaned after reading the question. She looked so adorable, and her answer went as follows. First and foremost, I want y'all to know I'm not dating anyone for now. Eric didn't know why, but hearing this was such a relief to him. The video was uploaded not too long ago, so there was a very high probability that she was still single. But talking about the qualities I would like in a man I want to spend the rest of my life with, firstly, he must be a lover of God. He must be respectful, hardworking, good-looking, and obviously must like me for who I am. So the top 5 celebrity guys I would love to hang out with. Let's see, she said, pretending to think for a while. Then she started mentioning their names and the reasons she would love to hang out with them. Then she said something that shocked Eric. He thought he heard the wrong thing, so he clicked the rewind button, and he heard the statement again, which made him grin like crazy. The final celebrity guy I would love to hang out with is Eric Ivan James. Honestly, I would love to meet him one-on-one and ask him how he does his things. You all can testify that I'm not exaggerating, because we all know he's hardworking and very successful. There was a time I almost made him my role model, she said with a chuckle. Another thing about Eric is that he smiled hearing the way his name rolled off her tongue. I'm a very sincere person, and y'all will agree with me that Eric is sexy as hell. There was a time Ella and I used to buy Times magazine just to admire his sexy body. Eric laughed out loud. That was when he used to model for Times magazine. His contract with them was over, that's why he stopped modeling for them. Although they pleaded for him to renew, and other modeling contracts came, but he lost interest in the job because they were bringing unnecessary attention as he wanted to focus on his businesses. Besides, another thing I greatly admire about Eric is that he adores his family, and I find that so adorable. I mean, he's a very busy person, but he still makes time for his family. It reminds me of high school. I used to be in the same class as his sister, and he was always there for her. Even after he graduated, he came for all her shows and plays. I know all these because I'm kind of an Ivan James fan, so I'm up to date with every talk and gossip. But honestly, I love and respect their bond as a family. So if I get the opportunity to hang out with him, I honestly don't know what I'll say to him. I mean, I don't even think I'll ever get to meet him. And if I do, which I know is almost impossible, I guess I'll tell him how much I've always adored him. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. The video ended with a priceless smile plastered on Eric's face. Chapter 6. 2 weeks later. By now, Eric had watched all of Annie's videos on her YouTube channel. The more he watched, the more he fell for her. He likes her already. Liking at first sight was something Eric never believed in, but it all made sense to him now. He wanted nothing more than Annie to carry his child. He wanted her to be the mother of his baby. Eric has still not heard from Dr. Myers. He was hoping the old man would reach out to him before the week runs out. Annie Davis woke up feeling a bit nervous, as she remembered today was the day she would find out if she was pregnant or not. The day that will determine whether she should start preparing for motherhood or not, but above all she silently prayed to God to give her the strength to go through what might come her way, especially if the result turns negative. Annie skipped her morning prayers, got down from her bed, and rushed into the bathroom. She took the pregnancy sticks, where she placed them the previous night, on the bathroom counter, and read the instructions again. She had read the instructions so many times, starting from the day Dr. Myers handed it to her. She couldn't help but read it again, just to make sure she does it right. Her heart was beating hard against her chest as she peeped on the sticks. Then she placed them on the counter and waited for it to tell the result. Annie washed and dried her hands, after which she walked into her room and reached for her camera. She wanted to capture the moment, just in case she was lucky enough for the results to come out positive. It was not for YouTube purposes. She wanted to keep this memory and perhaps show her baby sometime in the future. The timer went off, and it was time for Annie to look at the sticks, but she was scared. For a moment, she thought about the possibility of what could happen in the next few seconds. Whatever the outcome was, it would be a life-changing one. It was either for better or for worse. Annie took slow steps towards the counter, picked up the sticks, and took a look at them. Negative. She read the first one, and her heart fell. Tears welled up in Annie's eyes. Of course, she blamed herself for being so stupid, thinking the increase in her appetite was a probability of her being pregnant. Then she took a look at the second stick, and it read positive. A sad smile found its way to her lips, as she felt there was still hope of her being pregnant. Annie took a quick shower, changed into casual clothes, grabbed her handbag, reached for her car keys, and left her apartment. While driving, Annie silently prayed to God, giving him reasons why he should answer her prayer. She did all that Dr. Myers asked her to do. She ate well, followed the meal plan he had given her. She took her medications and avoided stress. "Good morning, Miss Annie." Nurse Sylvia greeted her as soon as she approached the busy reception. "Good morning," she replied with a small smile. "I'm here to see Dr. Myers," she said nervously, playing with her car keys. "Dr. Myers is off duty and won't be here until noon. Do you mind seeing another doctor?" she asked politely. "I don't mind," she replied. Nurse Sylvia. "Hold on a sec," Nurse Sylvia said before she disappeared. She came back almost immediately, asking Annie to follow her into the doctor's office. Annie knew almost all the doctors in this hospital, but had never come across this face. She was beautiful, a little bit taller than Annie and around Annie's age. "Good morning, Mississippi," the young doctor greeted Annie with a smile as soon as she walked in. "Good morning, Doc," Annie replied, taking a seat. "How may I help you, ma'am?" she asked politely. "I'm here to confirm if I'm pregnant. I took a test this morning. One turned out negative, and the other one turned positive," Annie said, and the lady doctor nodded in understanding. She asked Annie a few more questions, after which she told Annie to follow her to the laboratory room, where they collected her blood and urine sample to test. Annie felt weak immediately after she gave her blood sample. "Have you had breakfast?" the doctor asked with concern as she assisted Annie in taking a seat right outside the laboratory room. "Not yet," she replied weakly. "I'll be right back," the doctor said, after which she disappeared down the hallway. "Here, take this. It'll help with the dizziness." She handed Annie a bottle of mineral water. "Thank you, doctor," Annie said, trying to ask for her name. Madeline. She replied with a smile. Thanks, Dr. Madeline. Annie said while opening the bottle cover. She gulped down half of the mineral water. I brought this for you too. Madeline handed Annie a snack she never knew she was holding. It was one of those healthy snacks they had in store. Thanks, Madeline. Annie smiled. You're welcome. She smiled at Annie as if she knew something unknown to Annie. Your test results will soon be ready. I'll be back in 10 minutes. She said and excused herself. Annie kept herself busy with the snack. She finished it in no time and drank the rest of the mineral water. To while away time, she brought out her phone and replied to her messages, and soon enough Dr. Madeline was back from her office. She helped herself into the laboratory and came out holding a white envelope. Madeline's expression was normal, so Annie didn't know what to expect. Your test result, she said, taking a seat beside Annie. What? What does it say? Annie whispered. Madeline opened the sealed envelope and went through the result. She smiled. It's positive, ma'am. You're pregnant. I'm pregnant. Annie shuddered as tears welled up in her eyes. She couldn't believe it. Yes, you are, Madeline affirmed. Congratulations, she added. Thanks, Annie replied with a smile as her arms went around her belly protectively. She prayed to God about it, and now her little miracle was already growing inside her. I'm sure Dr. Myers will take it from here when you meet him. Please continue to eat well, keep yourself hydrated, and avoid stress as much as you can. You're still in your first trimester, so please be very careful. Thank you. I promise I'll take good care of myself. He or she is my priority now, she said with determination. They talked more, with Dr. Madeline giving Annie more helpful tips, after which Annie left the hospital. With his jacket off, the first 2 buttons of his shirt unbuttoned, Eric was seated on a chair behind his desk. He was engrossed with the document he was going through. He was trying to complete everything on his to-do list, so he could have a free weekend to spend with his youngest sister, Laura. Her birthday was on Saturday, so they would be celebrating all weekend, starting from Friday. The distraction came when his cell phone rang. Without looking at the caller ID, he picked up. Good day, Eric. Dr. Myers' voice came through from the other side, which made his stomach flip. Good day, Doc, he replied nervously, and the old man chuckled. I'm sure you were not expecting my call, son. I wasn't expecting you to call today, he replied, turning away his attention from the document he was previously going through. I have news, Eric. The process was successful. Annie is pregnant. A priceless smile tugged at Eric's lips as he threw his fist in the air. That's good news, document, he said, trying to control his excitement but failed terribly. I'm happy you are excited. It was confirmed this morning by my junior colleague, but I haven't spoken to Annie. I'll visit her later today. No doubt Eric was ecstatic about the news, but he was also concerned about Annie. He had no doubt she was going to freak out when she heard the news about him being the father of the child she was carrying, and him wanting to be in the baby's life. But Eric wanted more than that. He wanted them to be a family. He fell in love with her even before the pregnancy was confirmed. He knew she would freak out, but he was willing to be patient. Please let me know how it goes when you talk to her, he pleaded with him. No problem, son. I'll keep you updated, he promised. Congratulations, by the way. Thank you, Eric blushed. His joy knew no bounds. This has been his dream for so long, to be a father.